Welcome to the 30-Minute Hour. It's the personal development podcast for entrepreneurs who are looking to level up and become unstoppable. I'm your host, Eric Twiggs, your procrastination prevention partner. Joining me as always, you know him as the super CEO, the business strategist extraordinaire, and all-around good guy, Ted Fells.
Happy Monday.
Happy Monday.
Man.
Absolutely.
Mondays just go just like this. They just go. It's Monday again. It's Monday again.
That's right. And as we say here on the 30-Minute Hour, thank God it's Monday.
Absolutely. We don't wait till Friday, Carl. You know, people are like, thank God it's Friday. No. We started
the day of the week.
That's right.
Yep, absolutely. And so in case you missed it, make sure you go back and watch our 10 o'clock dose of motivation. It's 5 minutes of motivation. We help you to understand reasons why you should say, thank God it's Monday, to jumpstart your day and kick off your week. So make sure you check that out. And this is not your everyday podcast.
It's not.
No, we do things a little different. Unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to really warn or prepare Carl backstage.
That's right.
We do things
I
a
go
little
by
different.
the handle Born Ready, so let's roll.
Born ready. There you go.
That's right.
Awesome.
Carl, can you sing? Are you a singer?
I can very badly, and if pressed, I'll do it. But
All right. Just want to make sure we may call on you to sing at any moment.
It
So
could come up later, Carl.
We might ask you to juggle like anything, man. So just be ready.
Absolutely. But you can watch us on right now live on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. And then you can actually go back and listen to the replay on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, any of those places that you like to consume podcast content. I see people logging on now. Make sure you're commenting and say hello to us. Special shout out to the What Now movement. Couple of things you need to be aware of before we get into the meat of this episode. Mark your calendar for Saturday, June the 4th, where we're having another one of those coffee and conversation episodes. So myself, Ted, and the rest of the What Now movement team, we're going to talk about the halftime adjustments that you need to make. Make sure you crush your goals. It's June. June is halfway through the year. It's halftime. So we want to talk about what do you need to do. You need to react to the scoreboard. You need to know the score. We'll talk all about that. Coffee and conversation. Mark your calendar for June the 4th, 10 a.m. Eastern time. And don't forget, we've got the What Now Movement Summit. The theme is moving the needle in your business from 10 to 12:30 on July the 16th, Saturday, July the 16th.
Man, Carl, there's a lot going on, man.
A lot going on.
The digital dudes, we got a lot going on.
Hashtag full plate. I get it.
We got a lot going on. That's right. Pick up a plate, get a plate. That's right.
That's right, for sure. All right, but let's go ahead and introduce our guest. I'm just really excited to have him on. He's an entrepreneur. He's built 3 multi-million-dollar businesses before he turned 40.
Wow.
And he's mentored the launch of over 5,000 businesses. Now, some of the companies that he's helped, you may have heard of them. I don't know. Let's see. Allstate, American Idol, USA Olympic Track, IBM, McGraw-Hill, and the United States Army. You may have heard of those entities.
American Idol? Man, I was watching that a little bit last night. Man.
You asked me if I could sing.
Man, that was great, man. Good stuff.
So he's also created the farthest-reaching business mentoring organization in the world, and his methodologies are in practice in 35 countries.
Wow.
Absolutely. And one thing I just want to make mention of, he's written quite a few books that we'll talk about. He's got a bestseller that's out there now. He's also co-authored a book called The Blueprint for Success with Stephen R. Covey and Ken Blanchard. So he is somebody.
Oh, he definitely is somebody.
Absolutely. So please join me in welcoming to the 30-Minute Hour podcast, Carl Gould.
Well, thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. Welcome to the show. It's truly an honor. Definitely, let's get into this. I want to give everybody the backstory and so they have the full perspective. How did your journey to becoming this worldwide leading authority on entrepreneurship, how did that begin?
Yeah, well, man, it happened by accident, almost literally by injury. I was going to school at the University of Delaware studying accounting and finance. I was in the middle of my second year and I broke my leg pretty badly and I had to leave school. So there I was. My leg was in a cast from my hip to my ankle for over 3 months. I was laid up. I was home, and then once I cut the cast off, it took another 3 months to get my leg to bend and work again. And so I got to the end of that 6 months. I was paying my way through college. I couldn't afford to go back to school right away. And I learned a very harsh lesson that once you're out of school for 6 months, all of your student loans, all the money I borrowed to go to school, they assume you're out of school, right? And so they want the money back. Wow. And there I was. I had no job. I couldn't afford to go back to school. And I said, I gotta pay my bills. What do I do? And so the one thing I did know how to do was landscape construction. And so I started a design, build, landscape installation firm. I grew that business. And then the condition of my leg, didn't improve all that much. I needed another couple of surgeries on it. And so I sold that business, started a construction company, and I grew that business through the 90s and sold that business and started the business that I have today in 2002.
So, wow. So sounds like you've been on the entrepreneurial path the entire time. There was never a time where you were working for the man, or
I had a couple of jobs. My last job was I was a professional bartender for a little period of time. I worked at a nightclub in Hoboken, New Jersey, a few restaurants in northern New Jersey. I worked a midnight shift at Home Depot. I also worked the midnight shift at UPS loading trucks. So there was a time in my early part of my career where I loaded trucks for UPS from midnight to 8 a.m. I had my landscaping company during the day, and I bartended on the weekends.
When'd you sleep?
I didn't. I slept in my car mostly, a couple hours a night, and it was brutal. But hey, the power of broke, man. The power of broke.
Yeah.
So what did you? I'm curious with those experiences, right? Being a bartender, working at Home Depot. Did you find that what did those teach you about being an entrepreneur?
Well, I didn't learn a lot about being an entrepreneur working for Home Depot or being at UPS, other than, you could see how big of a business can run on systems. So that was a good lesson there. But I learned a lot about how to be an entrepreneur as a bartender. Someone told me I got $1 million education in psychology because I could see people come in. I could watch them run their patterns. I ran the bar. So some people would come in, as soon as they walked in the door, everyone was like, ooh, that person's here. You could tell there was definitely a pecking order. Some people would walk through the door and they'd never buy a drink all night long. Everyone bought for them, and I'm like, ooh, what's this guy or this gal got going on that the whole rest of the bar here is making sure they don't pay tonight? So I learned a lot about that, but really it was my landscaping company. When I started out in business, I was 18 years old and I was really just getting started. I didn't know much about the world. I only knew how to do landscaping. I didn't know how to do a landscaping business. I knew how to do landscaping, right? And so I started the business, and I remember the year before I broke my leg. I'm riding in the truck with my boss at the time, and I said, his name was Wes, and I said to Wes, I'm like, Wes, how do you know who to do work for? How do they find you? How do you find them? And he said to me, he goes, well, I'll tell you. He goes, we're driving down this road. He goes, I'll tell you what, just look out the window on the right-hand side. I was in the passenger side. He goes, point out every building that needs our service. From here to the stop sign, a mile-long road. I'm like, all right. I go, okay, that one. Yeah, not that one. That one, not that one. That one. And that went on the whole ride down the road. We get to the end. He's like, so how many of those buildings needed us? And I said, well, all of them, except for like 3 or 4. He said, that's right. Problem isn't who needs our work. The problem is your job is to just go out and find them. He said, so if you see a building that needs your service, walk up, knock on the door, ask who's in charge, and tell them what you do. Now, he didn't mean that literally, but I took it literally. So I started my business, and I'm like, hey, Ted, how you doing? You know, and I didn't realize people would be offended when I told them that their landscaping looked crappy and that I'm the one who should be doing it. I didn't say it in those words, but some people took it that way. They're like, oh, we just had that done. And I thought, oh.
Did you? Did you have it done?
Yeah, right. Exactly. You know, congratulations. That's what I meant to say. It was really good.
That's right.
And so I just started hustling my butt off. And what I was doing was if there was any job that looked like needed my service, I'd go see them. I took an ad out in the yellow pages at the time. I did radio. I did all the, I advertised. And I found out my biggest lesson is that if you can make a bold promise and you can keep it, you will be rewarded big time. And so my first year, people were complaining all the time. They would say, you contractors, you never show up on time. You never respond. You tell me one price, you do another. You don't stick by your word. And I was like, sir, I'm the one who showed up. I don't know who you're yelling at here. I said, if you want, I can go tell my competitors how they should run their business better. But if you'd like to talk about the project, I'm here to do it. Oh, sorry, Carl. I didn't mean to, vent on you. This is a really frustrating process. And I'm like, wow, everyone's saying the same thing. Everyone's saying that contractors never call back. So I took out an ad the next year. It had one line in it, my name. And then it said, all phone calls returned. That's it. And the next year I was overrun with leads. I had more leads than I could get to. And I was going on proposals before I got to work, during my lunch break, at night, and on the weekends. And I quickly filled up my production calendar. My big lesson was, hey, if you hustle and show up, you're going to get a lot of work. And I was never at a loss for work, even though when I started my business, I started in the middle of a real estate recession, and it was bad, right? And mortgage rates at the time were 12 to 18%, in the late 80s. That's when I started my business. And it was no joke. And people were like, what are you starting a business now for? And I said, why not? Everyone seems to need it, and I'm not having any problem getting clients. And all I did was promise that I'd show up and do the work. And that turned out to be really valuable.
Wow.
Interesting. So is there what other advice, like if you had to go back and talk to yourself when you were first starting in the landscaping business, you could go back in time, knowing what you know now, like what advice would you give to yourself?
Yeah, it's funny. I would have told myself to think bigger earlier. At the time, I mean, if you consider where I was coming from, I was not from a wealthy family. You had to earn everything that you got. I was just happy to be earning a living. Like I got an apartment. I'm like, yes, I'm not sleeping on my mother's couch anymore. Like I was like, I made it, Ted. I made it.
Yeah.
Right. And so, but I realized there was so much more. I was scratching the surface. And I didn't go to college. I mean, I did. I shouldn't say that. I had a year and a half of school. I did sign up for county college, and I took horticulture and business management courses in the evening when I had my business, because I wanted to make sure I continue my education. But I didn't have a lot of mentors. Right? There's a couple of people that were builders that I did work for that became my mentors a few years later. But I didn't understand how that worked. And I would have learned how to handle credit and debt better, meaning I would have learned how to borrow money and use it as leverage. Like I was doing everything with cash. And then there was this guy that I used to do a lot of work for. He was building houses like crazy. And I never, had the courage to ask him how he did it. But I later learned, I'm like, well, it's not, I figured he was doing it all on cash. And I realized, oh, wait a minute, he borrows money from the bank to do that. I'm like, wow, how do you do that? And it took me a few years to learn that. And I thought, man, had I known that earlier, I could have used that to my advantage.
Hmm.
Interesting. So the idea of just thinking bigger, and I know the entrepreneurs that I work with, that's a challenge. They just don't think big, right? Like when people
Yeah.
say, you know what, I think my goal is to have a 5% sales increase. Woohoo!
Yeah, right.
So can you talk more about this idea of thinking bigger and what the value of really just setting loftier goals and thinking bigger?
Well, one of the things I realized very early on in business is that there's no competition for number one. There's so few people who are trying to be the best. Now, of all the places you can be in business, that's got the least competition, right? So when because there's only one at number one, only one. And I found out not everyone else is actually even gunning for it.
Right.
So I thought, all right, well, so then there are a number of new products, very innovative products coming out at the time. So I realized there's not a lot of competition for number one. So I went to the product manufacturer. I said, I want to be one of your sales reps. I'll rep your product, be a distributor. Who's the best? Well, what do you mean, who's the best? I said, well, who's your top performer? And they would tell me, and I would say, really? That's all it takes to be your top performer? So I went out and I did that. And then I found another product and I said, well, who's the best? And they would say, well, who's the top performer? And they would tell me, and I would say, that's it. That's what I need to be. So, these concrete modular wall systems, Keystone, that you see wherever you go now, they came out when I had my business. Those pavers, those brick pavers you see on driveways and patios and all that, they came out when I had my business. So I looked at those products and I said, well, what do I need to do to be the best at this? And in my area, I got to that place very quickly, just because I realized that, there weren't a lot of people hustling to be number one. There were a lot of people hustling to have a job, make some money, get 5% improvement, but there were so few people trying to be number one.
Wow.
And so I started asking the question, all right, who's the best in this space? What are they doing? What do I have to do to match them or be one of them or be in that circle?
Wow. That's amazing, Carl. You make that sound so easy, right? When you see who the number one company is, and then how do you match them or go over them? I mean, yeah, can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. Well, right around 1990 is when I started going to personal development seminars, and that's when I really liked the idea of helping people out, helping them design their goals, go for their dreams. And all through the 90s, I did coaching as a side hustle. And then I started the business I have today in 2002. All right. So I start working with people in the personal development arena. And that's when I really started to learn, how do you actually create a goal? What's the mechanics of that? And there's this really cool part of your brain called the reticular activating system, the RAS. Right. And you guys, we all use it. We all don't know the term, but we all use it. So, when you're thinking of buying a car, you're like, all right, I want to buy a certain kind of sports car. Right. And then, you're like, yeah, I want to buy that. Nobody's got that car. And then you buy the car and you see them everywhere. And you're like, my God, where did they all come from? Did all of a sudden everybody buy the same car as me on the same day? And it's not it at all. But once you set your sight on a goal, your brain says, all right, I'm going to do everything I can, everything in my power to make sure that you see, hear, feel that goal everywhere you go. And so all of a sudden, the things that are important to you, they come out of the woodwork, right? I remember I went rock climbing one time. My wife got me a birthday party rock climbing, and I'm climbing up the mountain. I'm using the ropes. I'm climbing, and when I looked at the rock, it just looked like a sheet of glass. And I'm like, I'm halfway up, I'm stuck. I'm like, how the heck am I going to get up this rock? I look down, I'm like, any words of advice down there? And because I'm stuck. And he says to me, he goes, any spot on the rock that is the size of, that's flat, like the size of a dime, you can get your fingers or your toes on. And I remember looking at the rock, and as soon as he said that, the rock went from looking like a sheet of ice to like a ladder. Because now all of a sudden I saw all these little spots that were the size of a dime. I didn't get any better at rock climbing in that moment, but you get what I'm saying. I at least knew where to grab. you know? So now I'm like, oh, all right, I get it. I could grab here. I could put my foot there. I can grab here. I can put my foot there. I can grab. And I eventually got up the rock, but I didn't know what to look for. But once he told me any spot the size of a dime, you can use as a finger or a foothold. I'm like, all right, I'm on that. And so I climbed up the rock. And it's the same thing in business, is once you know what to look for, once you decide what to look for, it all of a sudden starts to appear to you. It was always there, but now your brain knows what to look for, right? So I got really good at knowing what to look for, right? Knowing what to listen for in a sales conversation. Like when, I learned after a while that when people started asking a lot of questions, they were working it out in their head how they're going to move forward. When someone was asking me questions, I'd keep my mouth shut and let them talk their way into it. Carl, so if we would do this now, we could probably have it done by the 4th of July, right? And I'm thinking, all right, they're working it out. They're trying. Yes, of course. Yes, of course. We do it now. You'd be done by the 4th. Then I'd shut my mouth. Okay, all right. Well, what would we have to do? We'd have to move this out of the way, and we'd have to do this, and we have to postpone that. And normally I would be like, oh my God, there's all these problems. Like, no, just let them work it out. So they'd work it. So if we were to move this out of the way and we were to push that up, you'd be able to get in here on time. Absolutely, I would be able to. Would you still be able to meet your time frame? And I'm like, wow, they're not giving me objections. They're working it out. And I'm like, great. So once I knew what to look for, once I knew what to listen for, it really sped up my results, exponentially.
Yeah, and I agree with you wholeheartedly. The whole reticular activating system is like these opportunities were there, but we just didn't have the focus. And that's the power of setting goals and setting big goals. And I'm sure entrepreneurs are constantly asking you questions about how they can improve their business. I mean, you're dealing with thousands and thousands of entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
Curious to know, like what's the one question that you wish entrepreneurs would ask you, but they don't?
Well, the one I wish they would ask me more and more is, what system could I put in place? Right? They'll say, what can I do? Right? I wish they would say, like, what can we automate? What system could we put in place? What are the things that we can do that will accelerate this growth, not just give us the growth? Right? Because our job as business owners is, every time we solve a problem, is to put a system in place so the system solves the problem the next time. And then it's our job to make sure the system runs well. We are no longer the problem solver. We're the mechanic on the engine that solves the problem the next time. And so what I wish business owners would ask is, what system can we put in place? What can we do to make sure we never have to do this again? Right? Sometimes they're in so much in the moment that they're just happy to solve the problem, and then they'll go on to the next emergency. Well, I'm more like, all right, let's take a couple extra minutes, not only solve the problem, but let's build the machine that makes sure that this problem doesn't happen again, or we can solve it better and better.
Yeah, great point.
Yeah. And do you find that a lot of people are just looking for the hack, the quick fix? That's probably why they don't ask you that question.
Yeah, there is a lot of instant gratification. I mean, the reality though is that business owners, very few business owners went to school for or are good at managing or leading a business. We say that the two most unqualified people in any business at any time are, one, the person who just got a promotion, right? Because the skill set that they had at their last job got them a promotion. Their skill set doesn't necessarily help them in the next job for a period of time. They're unqualified. Hey, I'm the new VP of sales or director of ops. Oh, great. Now we got to teach you how to do it now, right? Because you've not done it before, right? The second most unqualified person in a business is the CEO of a fast-growing business, right? Because they might have been the CEO of a $5 million business, but now they're a $7 million company, and they've never run a $7 million company before. And you run a $7 million company different than a $5 million. You run a $2 million different than a $500,000. It's different. And so I'm usually working with the least qualified people in any business at any given time.
Interesting. So you launched over 5,000 businesses. So what does the small business success blueprint look like?
The small bit. So I wrote a methodology in the 90s called the 7 Stages of Small Business Success. It's got a graph. It's got seven stages to it. We were doing all sorts of assessments on people and businesses at the time. And I realized like there's a real sequence and there's a real formula here. So the first stage or the first step or the first stage is something called strategic planning. Get all those great ideas out of your head and onto paper. Make it compelling and inspiring, or you're going to have trouble hiring people and you're going to have trouble getting business because no one wants to hire a boring company. Right? Stage 2 is where you become a specialist, where you learn how to be an expert in your field. You need to do that so you could charge premium rates. You're going to need premium rates because you're going to have to hire people and managers to help you. So you need enough gross margin dollars in order to be able to hire them. All right? We get to stage 3, and now that's the synergy stage. That's where we hire our team to help us work, right? We're so busy now. Now we need to get elbow to elbow with somebody who's going to roll up their sleeves and help you. Stage 4 is the systems stage. And that's where a business system is born, right? That's where we start to document, we process map everything, and we decide what kind of business we're going to become, right? Are we going to be like Apple, that's a closed system, like Microsoft, that's going to be open source? Are we going to be a franchise? Or are we going to be a partnership? Like what kind of business structure and system are we going to be? Stage 5 is what we call the sustainability stage. And that's when you can really start scaling new products, new locations, and you can really go big. Stage 6 is the saleability stage, where you can maximize the saleability or your ability to acquire other businesses. And stage 7 is the succession stage, where a legacy business is born, and you can now pass along your business to the next generation. You can sell it, do almost whatever you want with it, but you get to fire employee number 1 at that point, right? Because you're in stage 7 and you've grown this great business that just about anybody can run.
Now, this is good. I just want to go back and make sure we're hitting all of these key points, because we have people that might be on the treadmill listening to us right now, and I want to make sure you're getting this. So, number 1, we're talking about the 7 stages. You got strategic planning, then you become the specialist, then you focus on synergy, then you're focusing on systems, then you're focusing on sustainability, then you're focused on scalability, and then succession.
That's correct. Yeah.
All right.
And we got to go in order. You can't skip a step. That's a big mistake entrepreneurs make. I don't need a plan. Let's just do it. Right? Most business owners are really good operators. They know how to do the business, but they don't know how to grow the business as an entity. So they just jump in there, start working away, but they don't put the foundation in place. Yeah.
Okay. So Carl, and I'm sure you've gotten this question or statement before. There's somebody that's listening to us right now, watching us, and they're saying, Carl, this sounds great, but you don't understand. My business is different.
Of course it is. Of course it's business. Of course it's different because you're running it. But you know what? You're going to get the same results if you do the same thing. Look, we've worked in 68 countries. Everyone has told me that. Oh, that's a great idea in New Jersey, Carl, but you don't know us down in Maryland. Yeah, that's fine for you Yankees, but down here in Texas, down here in the South, that doesn't work. And it doesn't work in Canada, in Australia, in Europe, in Middle East, and Africa until it does. Here's what I have found over my life, guys, is that entrepreneurs are a very special breed, and they're the same everywhere. We're cut from the same cloth. We're born out of the same, no matter what we look like on the outside, we are all wired the same. I have not seen much of a difference in entrepreneurship anywhere in the world. And I'm telling you, I've been just about everywhere. Wow. Right? And we've worked with, in 32 years, we've worked with everyone from everywhere. And, 1 in 15 people are an entrepreneur. Okay. Mm-hmm. 1 in 600 people have a business worth $1 million or more. 1 in 6,000 people have a business worth 10 million or more. I mean, it's a small group. I think we're all brothers and sisters from another mother. It's just we are so cut from the same cloth. It's ridiculous. No matter what language you're in, and we all want similar things. We want to change the world, right? We want to contribute to the world at the same time. We're goal-driven people. There's a lot of things about us that are similar. We're very resilient. We're very persistent, but we are very inefficient, and we're not good managers, right? You're good at what you do. You're not a good manager, right? And so that's the part that we as entrepreneurs have to continuously work on, because it's not our skill set.
Awesome. We've got Carl Gould on. We're talking about the blueprint for small business success. And that's the theme of our show today. And speaking of which, so Carl has literally written the book on the blueprint for success. So that's actually the title of your book. It's The Blueprint for Success. And you actually co-authored with Stephen Covey and Ken Blanchard. Just curious to know, like, how did that partnership come about?
Yeah, well, at the time I had the 7 stages of small business success was at the time a coaching method. Well, still is a coaching methodology. I wrote it as a coaching manual at the time, and the publisher of that book, which was a collaboration between Ken Blanchard and Stephen, the late Stephen R. Covey, was they were looking for someone else who could explain in a formulaic way, how do you build a business? How do you grow? How do you become successful? And so the publisher contacted me and said, Stephen Covey and Ken Blanchard would like you to contribute to your book. Would you like to their book? Would you like to do it? Of course,
Wow.
And so I contributed a chapter to the book that explained this model.
Awesome. And so, I mean, I know we've talked about a lot of things already about the blueprint for success, but anything else, if someone were to pick the book up, that they're going to get from reading it?
Well, I think the main thing I was trying to tell people was this, is that there is a formula for success. It's repeatable, it's predictable, and if you follow the process, you are unfairly rewarded, like you're exponentially rewarded. And if you don't follow it, you're unfairly punished. Meaning, there's certain things. You might not like gravity, but you're going to learn pretty soon that gravity wins every time, no matter how hard you try, right? And so if you follow the steps, we as entrepreneurs oftentimes get this maverick or this rebellious, part of us that says, all right, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to follow any rules. And then that's when you learn. They're very expensive lessons. I ask my clients, I'd say, if you can have all the money back from all the mistakes you made, how much money would that be? Right?
Be rich.
Yeah, right. Ted's still doing the math. He's like,
be rich.
There was that one. Then there was that one.
Oh, yeah.
The same way, right? And you're like, oh, how much money, how much pain do we need before we realize that there's some foundational principles that are here to serve us, So.
For sure. And we've got a question in the comments section. Somebody watching this on YouTube, Fabio, shout out to you for commenting. He wants to know what your ideas are to scale a service business. All
right. So a service business is great. I own service businesses and work with them. Many businesses can scale. Now, there's a lot of times we get this question. Some people say you can't scale a service business and you can't scale a celebrity business. Well, I'm a lawyer, I'm an accountant, I'm a speaker. I can't do this. Look at the Dale Carnegie companies, right? Dale Carnegie companies now, not the whole Carnegie family, but the Dale Carnegie Leadership Program is worth more now as a franchise than the company was when Dale Carnegie was alive. And the reason being is it was built on the principles that made Carnegie successful. It wasn't built on Dale Carnegie. It was built on the Carnegie principles or the Rockefeller habits, right? And so you build intellectual property around all of your business systems, right? So you productize and you package all of your business systems, and then you can franchise your business, you can license it, you can open up other offices, you can scale corporately. At that point, you can build a very wide business just based on those guiding principles.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you for answering that. That's great. So, I mean, you've achieved this level of success. I'm sure when you were starting out, you had this somewhat of a vision of what you wanted to accomplish, and you've achieved this level of success. I'm just curious to know, like, is it what you thought it would be, or is it not all it's cracked up to be?
Well, there's a few things that were a bit of a surprise. So some things were better than I thought, right? Meaning, I always had it in my head that, only I cared. I work really hard. No one else cares. It's not their business. But I realize people really do care. They really care about, moving the business forward. They just want, as long as you give them something to believe in, and it's interesting and stimulating work, and the company is about something, right? It's not just there to do its job. It's there for something more. People really do care, and they will take ownership of their jobs and move forward. So that was a real pleasant surprise. The part that wasn't all that it's cracked up to be is that when it comes to sales and marketing and always generating the next lead and getting the next sale, it never ends. It never gets easy. It gets easier, but it's never easy. It's never stopped. It doesn't matter how long. I've been an entrepreneur now for 37 years. I've been an entrepreneur in my life longer than I've not been an entrepreneur in my life. And, some days I'm like, man, didn't I earn the right to have some business just come my way? Like, come on, really? Like, can't I cash in a few chips and just ride out the next year?
Yeah.
And that's just not the way it works. Every day.
Wouldn't that be great though?
Wouldn't it?
Go to a place and they just be like, we thought you'd never get here. We got some for it. Like, that would be great.
Exactly. Like we've built up enough momentum, like it can kind of glide down the hill a little bit.
Yeah.
But it's just not the case. And the more successful you get, the harder it is to maintain your momentum because more people are coming after you. Right. Or if you set the bar, people are like, oh, that's awesome. Let me see if I can make it better. And so business is this constant game and this constant challenge of improvement, of innovation, of doing a little bit better. We just had the pandemic, right? Now buyer preferences have changed again in a big way. And we now have, you as a business, you have to match that. Or someone else is going to match you and just take your market share away. So the part I always just thought when I was younger, I'm like, all right, someday it's just going to get easier. And that's not the case. It's my job to get better. So relative to the problem, I'm just better relative to the problem. So I have to work on me. So I'm bigger and better than my problems. The problems are never going away. They're never going to get easier. They're only going to get bigger. My job is to continue to improve myself, improve my team, improve the business, improve the systems, the product, you name it, continuously improve. So I'm ahead of the wave. So those are when I think back to my former self, and I'm glad nobody told me, but they're like, yeah, you think it's hard now. It's going to be like 10 times harder later,
So I like how you say you have to grow to be bigger than your problem. So what are those things that you do to continually, like what are your daily habits to keep growing?
Yeah, so I spend 90 minutes a day building my business. So whether it be sales, being on a podcast, marketing, something that is sales and marketing related every single day. And no matter what is going on in my life, sales and marketing can never take a break. Ever. I did it once 20 something years ago where I was like, you know what? I'm just sick of it. Right. And it took me so long to get back to where I was. It's just not worth the effort of stopping. It's just too hard. So every single day I have on my calendar something I'm doing to generate a lead, or I'm networking, or I'm on a sales call every single day, no matter what. Doesn't matter. There's no bad time. There's no bad season. I mentored a lot of business coaches over the year, over 7,000 of them, and they would say, "Oh, well, yeah, but it's a weekend coming up. It's a Saturday. It's a holiday." I'm like, "That's right." And guess who's the only person at work today? The owner, right? Because all the other employees are gone for the weekend, but the owner is stressed out about his or her job, and they're there in their seat right now. So go call them.
Carl, man, let me tell you, you are on it. You're on it, man. I mean, because there's always someone that says, You're working on the weekend? Isn't this a holiday? You're the boss. That's why I'm working, right?
That's exactly why I'm working, right?
I don't work for the man. I am the man, right? So I gotta be working.
It's true, you know. So I do that every single day. I have on my phone, I have a little icon on my phone, a little tray that's got probably 15 or 20 motivational videos, courses, you name it. And so when I run or I'm getting ready or go to workout, I put them on every day. So and the other thing that I did was every year I set my goals for the year. I've got mind maps and treasure maps and all that. I speak all of my goals into an audio and I play them back every single day. So when I'm in the shower, I'm listening to them. Like every day I'm pumping in the stuff that I want, that I need, that's going to drive me. So that way I can balance out, you know, some of the negativity and some of the reactionary stuff that I have to deal with on a daily basis. So I fill up my cup so that negativity can't get in there.
Wow.
Yeah, it's funny because Ted and I, we talk about the whole weekend thing all the time. Yeah. So when you brought that up, we were like looking at each other because that's a conversation we always have.
There was this really funny movie. I love the line, and it goes like this, and it says, "Hey, if you don't show up on Saturday, don't even think of coming in on Sunday." Right? You know,
right.
And the owner was making a joke like, "Yeah, we work every day." You know.
Yeah.
So one of the things I did to get ahead of my first job was I was noticing it was hard to get, and I do this with my clients now. Is I actually had two businesses under one roof. I switched the work week from Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. I went Monday to Thursday for 10 hours. So we worked 10 hours a day, Monday to Thursday. And I would say to the guys, schedule all of your emergencies for Friday. You got a doctor's appointment? Friday. Your kid plays sports? Friday. You want to go to the beach? Friday. Just don't do it Monday to Thursday. You get an extended weekend every single week. All right. So I don't want to hear it Monday to Thursday. We work 10 hours a day. And then I hired a crew for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And I would tell the Monday to Thursday guys, I would say, listen, if you're still alive on Friday and you want some extra hours, come on in. And then so we had teachers and firefighters and cops and other type of workers that have flexible schedules. They worked Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So we work 7 days a week. And then I would say to the weekend crew, I would say, look, we work late Monday through Thursday. You want a couple hours? Come on in. You know, you get out of work, you get out of school at 3:00. We're there till 7. So get a few hours in. And so we had these two crews going on, and it worked really well. Wow. You know, because everybody had a long weekend. And on the days, because, you know, like in construction especially, you get to the job site, you've got to get all the tools out of the truck. You got to set up. Then you got to break down at the end of the day. So rather than doing that 10 times a week, we did it 8 times a week. And it saved us an hour every day. So I said, look, we're set up. What's 2 more hours? It's not that big a deal. Right. And so that worked really good. But yeah, in the beginning, man, I got to tell you, if you were working alongside me, you were putting in some hours. And my nickname at the time, my workers called me Captain Glucose. That was my nickname.
Wow. Captain Glucose. Okay.
So we were going after it pretty hard. But that business doubled every year for 7 years until I sold it. I mean, we were rocking, you know. We grew really fast. I sold that business. I had a leg surgery, like I mentioned, and then I started my construction company, and that business grew until I sold it as well. That grew at a rapid pace. So the hustle paid off.
So it sounds like you just have some philosophies that you can apply to any business. Sounds like. Yeah,
what you do as a job in your business, if you're a dentist, you're an accountant, you're a lawyer, you're a mechanic, that part's different. But everything else is the same.
It's the same.
We all go on the same Facebook, right? We don't go on Facebook for dentists. We go on Facebook. Right. We go on Instagram. We go on TikTok, right? The billboard on the side of the highway, that's for everybody that drives by, not just for the people, you know, that have a certain kind of car. So there's, you know, payroll and HR and hiring and marketing and sales. All that's the same.
The same.
Everywhere in the world, every business, it's almost identical.
Yeah. Wow.
For sure. So what's next on the horizon for you, Carl?
Well, yeah, I'm really excited. I've got a new book coming out called The Obnoxious Offer. It's how to be obnoxious, and it's a joke because someone called me obnoxious years ago, but it's how you provide tremendous value at a premium price, and you redefine the customer relationship. So I'm really excited about that book coming out. We continue to service our clients, which is awesome, and I now invest in companies that I like as well. So we have a few companies that we are building using our methodologies.
Wow.
So that's really exciting.
Exciting times.
Carl, it sounds like you really like what you do.
I do, Ted. When I started landscaping, I did it because I was broke, literally. And I only knew I knew two things to do, how to make money: landscaping and construction, because I grew up in it. And I didn't like either business all that much. I worked hard at landscaping. I worked hard in construction, and those businesses were successful. I really didn't enjoy. They wasn't my passion. Yeah. When I discovered coaching in 1990, I was like, "Whoa, what is this?" Yeah. And the coaching industry was nothing like it was today. It was so young, you couldn't make any money at it. And so in 1996, I hired a mentor for my business. And I love the process. Like, I look forward to going in my coaching sessions about my business more than I look forward to my business. And then one day I said to Eric, my mentor at the time, Eric, not related. I said to him, I'm like, I want to do what you do. How do I do it? And he told me what his path was. And I got certified where he did. Plus I was a Tony Robbins coach at the time. And I was certified in Ken Blanchard's situational leadership and Dale Carnegie leadership and the Adizes methodology and DISC assessments and NLP. I'd gotten all these certifications, and I was doing coaching as like the certified coach for others. But I hadn't considered it as a business. And I thought, and nobody had a business like that at the time. And I thought, I want to do this, as a business. And I really, like, since I started that in 2002, Ted, I feel like I don't feel like I've worked since then. And I put in equal, if not more, energy now than I did then.
That kind of goes back to that whole thing when people are like, you're always working. But again, if it's what you love to do, it's your passion, it doesn't even feel like work.
Doesn't feel like work.
They're like, man, when you going to take a vacation? What? To get away from what I'm doing? I'm vacationing now.
Exactly.
I'm vacationing in this work.
You bring up a good point, because that's when I learned the difference between work-life balance and work-life integration. When I had a job I didn't like, it was all about balance. Like, how do I get away from this so I can do that? And how do I have to get away from that to do this?
Yeah.
Now it's more work-life integration. Like, how do I integrate my family into what I do? How do I bring my friends into my work? So I speak and I travel a lot. So when I go on a keynote, do a keynote, I bring the family. And they love going. Like, yeah, we'll go to Orlando. We'll go to Las Vegas. We'll go to New York. We'll go to London. Yeah, that sounds great for a weekend, And when I go to a trade show, they always have trade shows and conferences in great places, in cool spots. So I bring my family when I go. Whenever we have the opportunity to travel together, we do, And then, if I'm going to invest in a business, I'll go to my friends and say, so for those of you that qualify, here's what I'm doing. Anyone want in? So, I've integrated both into my life. And so I still get those times where I can just turn off all the technology, go put my toes in the sand, and nobody knows who I am or where I'm at. Right. I still have plenty of those times, but I don't feel like I need to run to them.
Wow.
So
it looks like one of our viewers, Lola Wilson's an entrepreneur, and she's just hearing everything you're saying. She's like, indeed, amazing. I totally understand, Carl. She is a follower.
Absolutely. Yep.
Right on, Lola.
Those are great points. That the idea of work-life integration.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Blend them as much as you can.
Yeah.
Right. Because the more once, like I in the beginning, I'd be like, oh, I gotta travel overnight to Vegas and do a keynote and be back in 2 days. So I don't want to put anyone through that. And then I realized, wait a minute, what if I brought them with me and we made it fun? So this was my best one. I did a keynote in Aruba, right? And they're like, well, listen, we're not a big organization, we're a small island. And so we can't really afford your fee. They said, but, all of it. And they said, but, we are a tourist place, so it's pretty cool. I said, all right, well, then what if you fly my wife and daughter out as well? And we come a day early. Would that be all right? And they were like, we're all over that. And they were so happy about it that not only did we come down and have like a long weekend in Aruba, I gave the presentation on a Saturday night. We left on Sunday. We got there Thursday. And not only were they so happy we came, it was tour after tour after tour. Like, we heard you came down, you wanted an extra day. We took you on the Jeep tour. And we're like, yeah. And then we did the parasailing, and then we got the spa treatment. And, and then my family's like, this is what you do when you go away for work. I'm like, well, not normally, but I told them you're coming, and all of a sudden they roll out the red carpet. So, yeah, the more we still talk about those things today. Like, oh, remember that Aruba trip? Remember that time we went to London? Remember we did this? And now it's become like family memories.
Wow. So then when they come to you and they're like, Dad, can we go on a vacation this year? Well, we've been vacationing all year.
Exactly.
All year.
I'll say to them, well, if you don't mind me stepping out for an hour or two to give that keynote presentation,
we go where we want to go.
You don't mind that? I'm all right with it.
Yeah, that's cool.
So
this is great. Again, this is another one of those shows. This could be like a 2-hour episode. I have so many other questions I could ask you. We're going to have to bring you back at some point to unpack some other things here.
Oh, let's go for it.
Yeah. Sure. So we're at the last segment. It's called Write This Down. This is where we each just go around and leave one takeaway at least that people need to write down so they can level up. So Carl, you're the guest of honor. We'll start with you. What's your one takeaway that you want to leave people with?
People will pay your premium as long as they know you're fully committed to making sure that experience goes as well as possible. You could charge more for your business. You could charge more right now. And your clients will be happy to pay it. And then they will brag about how much they pay for your services. So increase your prices right now.
Increase your prices right now. There you go.
And I'm not trying to follow Carl here. I'm not following Carl. Carl been dropping boulders all show. I'm not trying to follow Carl in this because I'm just taking notes throughout this whole thing and just the whole thing around just kind of integrating, kind of your life and everything into what you do. Man, that is just a phenomenal approach to doing this. But I asked you the question about, do you really like what you do? And I could just tell how you just kind of, you just lit up with that question, right? And so for me, I'm just thinking, I'm like, again, I think to write this down is you got to find something that you like to do, and it doesn't seem like work, right? It just seems like it's fun. You enjoy what you're doing, and you look at, I can see how you and your coaching just with any business that you're going to be able to come in and just, kind of help them with, some principles that work every place, and just that when you were breaking down the whole concept around dealing with the different shifts and how, you presented that to them, I thought that was genius, right? And you gave each group, I'm sure, what you needed to give them to be on board with what you needed them to do. And that helped to lead those, to take those companies to the heights that they went to. So I think, bottom line is, if it's something that you like to do, you'll put the time into it. You'll work the long hours and you'll enjoy it and you'll learn as you continue to do it. So that's my 2 cents on that.
Good stuff. Yeah, that's just very important because to me, that's like one of those, you can't fake it. And over time, you can fake it in a short instance, but it's going to come out if this isn't really what you're into, what you love to do. So I think it is important to find something that you're passionate about. So
The number one reason people would come to us in coaching was that they or someone they knew had a serious health issue or health scare. And what will drain your energy more than anything else you'll do in your life is going to a job 8 hours that you can't stand.
Mm-hmm.
It will have more health ramifications on your body than just about anything else you do.
True. Very true. So my piece will write this down. It has to do with, it kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier, where people always say, "Oh, my business is different," and they'll carry it even further and see someone having success and say, "Oh, well, yeah, well, his area is different. That's why he's able to have that success." And instead of really understanding the fact that there's always a formula, right? And it's almost like you're in a garden, right? If you want to plant a certain type of a tree or plant, you got to have that seed in the right soil. You have to nurture it that certain way, and you have to get whatever you're planting. So I think the key is that we have to focus on what is the formula. What's the business formula? So if we're not having success, it's probably because we're not applying the formula or we haven't applied it long enough. So that's where you need a Carl in your life, right?
You need a Carl in your life. You need a Carl.
Right? Absolutely. He can help you to apply that formula and ease some of the frustration. But this whole thing of my business is different, we have to get out of that mindset because it's really not. If you apply the formula, you can have success.
Yeah. No doubt. Yeah.
Absolutely. Man, this has been a fantastic episode. I definitely want to thank Carl Gould, our guest. And again, tell the people how they can best connect with you.
Well, if you go to carlgould.com is my website, CARLGOULD. My personal website is Carl360, CARL360.com. And either way, you can get in touch with me or learn about what I do. And you'll learn I'm pretty easy to find once you do that.
You got to come back, Carl. You got to come back, Carl.
Oh, I'd love it. This has been a blast, guys. You guys are awesome, and you have a great audience, and I'd love to come back, and let's do this some more. We can have some more fun.
Thank you. And Lola Wilson would like you to come back. She's
all right, Lola, you're on.
You're out.
You're on. Let's get it on the calendar.
That's right.
Yep. Again, because I have a lot I have to unpack, and I don't want to keep you in at 10 o'clock. So we have to.
Carl's got someplace to be. Carl's got someplace to be.
I'm like, I think we lost Carl.
That's right.
He hasn't moved in a while.
Right. So we'll definitely have to bring you back. We got a lot to unpack. Thank you again for everything that you shared. I know you've helped quite a few people that follow us to take that next step. For those of you who you're just joining, you need to hit the rewind button. Again, if you want to watch this, go to Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn to listen. On your treadmill, in the car, all that good stuff. Go to Apple Podcasts, go to Spotify, and any of those places you'd like to consume your content. That's our show for this week. Don't forget to share the show.
Share the show.
Absolutely.
Share the show. Don't keep it to yourself. Share Carl Gould. Share Carl Gould.
Don't keep them a secret. Share the show. This definitely will bless your life. All right, that's our time for this week. And until next time, have a great one.